so fun.
Isn't it? Yeah, this is great. Thank you guys for joining.
Terrific.
So in the because of time constraints, and I think we've got an hour, I'm sure people are going to join join us as we talk. I think the first thing we should do. Hello, Holly.
It's right there.
Hello, Tad. I see another new face over there. I think if we could all just mute our lines for the moment, if you could mute your lines, and then we're going to open it up
Okay.
through kind of conversations and questions. So if you don't mind just muting your line, except for Keese and Peg, who are going to kind of kick this off after I give you a little quick introduction. First of all, thank you for being part of this experiment in this world that we're all in. This is a really exciting opportunity to meet some new artists, to be part of a great initiative that Keese started with her Creative February project, which you may or may not be familiar with, but she painted an Adirondack scene of protected Adirondack lands every day in the month of February, each week designated for a season. And we also thought that we would invite other Adirondack artists who also are inspired by this beautiful place that we all are privileged to be in. So we have a total of 10 artists participating in this. Peg Olson's the director of the Nature Conservancy here, and she's going to tell us a little bit about the lands that they protect, and they sort of teamed up with Keese this year in this initiative, and a significant portion of our, any sales will go to protecting lands here in the Adirondacks. So anyway, I just wanted to say hello to the familiar faces and look forward to meeting some of the new faces, and I'm so thrilled with all the artwork that Keese and the artists have curated for this show. So if you haven't had a chance to go to artsy.net, that's where the work can be seen. There are links all over the place to that. And I just want to turn it over to Peg and to Keese to talk a little bit about, just broad strokes, the Creative February project, and then Keese will introduce the artists. And we will open it up to questions and make this sort of interactive. So thank you very much, one and all.
Thank you, Malcolm. And thank you everyone for joining us tonight. I wanted to take a moment just to acknowledge and introduce all the artists who have participated in this exhibit, and I'll just go in alphabetical order. Many of them are here with us tonight, and I know some of them are going to be joining us. So Matt Chinian, you could wave when I say your name. Yep, there's Matt. Kate Edwards, not sure if Kate is here yet. Tim Fortune. Tim, there you are. Hi, Tim. Holly Friesen. Hi, Holly. Daisha Devon Harris. I'm not sure if Daisha is here yet. She said that she would be available. We'll see if she joins. Sandra Hildreth. Hi, Sandra. Edward Bear Miller. Hi there. Tad Retz. Hey, Tad. And Denon Wallentis. Is Denon here? Okay. I think so. Oh, yeah, wow, there's a second page. I see everybody. So thank you all again for joining us. Creative Adirondacks was born actually about a year and a half ago when I met with Peg. Peg, I'm gonna introduce her in a moment, but Peg is the director of the Nature Conservancy's Adirondack chapter, and Peg is an avid lover of art. I actually met her years prior at an exhibit where Peg purchased one of my pieces, and then later Peg read an article about my that featured my love of the Adirondacks, and she thought adding an artist to the Nature Conservancy's board would be a great way to bring a different perspective of appreciation for the Adirondacks. So Peg and I we met and we talked about ways that I could help promote the work that she and the wonderful staff at TNC are doing. And I had originally been doing a Creative February project for the last 6 years, where I gave myself the gift of time every February for my birthday month to paint a piece a day. And I thought it would be fantastic to tie in my love of the Adirondacks for this year to feature a different location that TNC has played a pivotal role in conserving. So that's how Creative February Adirondacks was born. And this exhibit, I wanted to not only feature the 29 pieces that were completed during February, but I also wanted to open it up to other artists who are also inspired by our precious Adirondacks. And I am so thrilled that these 9 have accepted the challenge and have shared their work that you can see on the artsy side. So with that, I'd like to introduce Peg. Peg?
Great. Well, thanks, Malcolm, and thanks to Keese. And I just wanted to take a couple of minutes to thank all of you for your wonderful work. From a personal perspective, I'm thanking you for the richness and the beauty you bring to the world. But also, I want to thank you in my role as a professional conservationist as well. And I want to tell you why. As you may know, the Nature Conservancy, we're very much a science-based organization. We're probably best known, you know us for buying land, preserving land, working with landowners to conserve their land. Keese's Creative February Adirondacks showcases many of the places the Nature Conservancy has conserved. Some of those places we still own and they're open to the public to visit. Some have gone on to be publicly owned properties such as Santanoni and others. And in all, we've protected about 585,000 acres in the Adirondacks. You know, the Nature Conservancy works in 70 countries around the world. But we recognize we do land acquisition, but now more and more we're really recognizing that the world is becoming increasingly much more complex, and that we as conservationists, we've really got to keep up with the scale, complexity, the pace of the threats that are coming at our natural resources, that climate change being the greatest challenge of our time. We need to be more sophisticated in how we address these challenges, how we think about mitigating climate change, then how we help our natural systems adapt to the impacts of climate change, and then how do we help people and communities adapt as well. So the Nature Conservancy is really good at bringing science to bear on solving these problems and using facts and data to guide our work. But what we've learned, for many, facts don't change minds. You know, I can say all I want, healthy forests sequestered X tons of carbon, so we should protect our forests. Or I can say Follansbee Pond is important because the science is telling us it'll be a lifeboat in the face of climate change, and it's one of 5 of the most climate resilient lakes in the Northeast. Or I can throw out, we've captured multi-data layers and done GIS modeling that shows how our habitats are shifting. So we've modeled and we've mapped and we've analyzed and we've planned. We have facts and figures and graphs and charts, but facts don't always inspire people to care and to take action. We need the science to drive our work, but that's not going to sell our work. And that's why your work is so important. Some of the greatest conservation started with poets and artists, connecting people to place and nature through their hearts, evoking emotions, being provocative, inspiring new ideas, moving people to action. So that's why we asked, as Tiki said, we asked Tikis to join our board to bring that artist's perspective and the artist's ability to translate all our science and facts and figures into something that inspires people. So I love Tikis's work. I met her at that show, bought one of her beautiful paintings, and she said, you saw the article in the magazine, learned how inspired and connected she was to nature and the Adirondacks. My light bulb went off. Emailed her immediately. She didn't know who I was, but she responded right away. She's really great at doing that. Creative February was her brainchild to feature as many of the places the Nature Conservancy has helped to preserve in a daily painting. At the time, we didn't realize it was going to be leap year, so she had one extra day she had to put in. But I want to thank Keese for this remarkable gift that she has given to us, and to thank all of our artists and poets and writers for helping us translate science into something people truly care about. So I really look forward to this session this evening, and thanks for including me in it.
Thank you, Peg. Thank you. So I did a quick overview on Creative February and how it all started. So the Creative February Adirondacks, what I find, it seems like such a long time ago when we did this, considering all the events that have happened since February. But some of the highlights that I wanted to talk about for the project was actually scouting some of the locations. Many of them were new to me. Many of them I had no idea they even existed. For example, the Opalescent River. The Hudson River is very popular, but the Opalescent leads into the Hudson, and I had no idea it existed. So one thing I wanted to also thank were the other artists, because there were a few locations that I was not able to visit in person, but we worked with TNC and other artists and photographers who love the Adirondacks as well, and they provided images for places that I could not visit. So I just wanted to acknowledge them and thank them as well. One scene that I really loved, and I'm going to share my screen right now because I'm going to share some of the paintings. Stasia's. So I have a bunch of them open right now, a bunch of windows open. This first piece was the first one that I completed, and I thought it was significant because the Santanoni Preserve was one of the first preserves that the Nature Conservancy was instrumental in acquiring. And this was a 10-mile round trip, cross-country ski trip that we were gonna do on one of the special winter weekends that they have here during the month of February, but the temperature was about 5 degrees, I believe, that one weekend, and I'm tropical. I'm from a tropical island, so 5 degrees wasn't gonna work for me. So we went the following weekend, and I hadn't cross-country skied since my in-laws had bought me skis for my birthday a number of years, I think maybe 10 years ago, and we went cross-country skiing in their backyard. I would go around my yard. It's difficult, but it was an amazing trip. It was wonderful seeing this property that I believe, and Peg can correct me if I'm wrong, it's over 600 acres. And it has multiple buildings on the property. The property surrounds a lake. And this is the artist cottage. So I thought it was fitting to start the project off with this, because I could just imagine the artists from many, many years ago coming here to work. This is another piece in the Creative February project that was pretty special to me, and this is the Blue Mountain Lake. And this was done from a reference image from a trip that my family and I had in a couple of Octobers ago. And I woke up early and did a sketch of the sunrise coming up, and the Blue Mountain profile is iconic. And I just loved the way that the sun illuminated those beautiful October colors on the mountain. This is just one more that I wanted to talk about. Last fall, when we were planning and trying to acquire images for the project, this was a trip we took to Silver Lake. There's a bog there. There are beautiful tamaracks and ferns and wetlands that you have to walk through. There's actually a boardwalk trail, excuse me, through the marshes. And you go through the marshes, you go up a little bluff, and then you get to this overlook. And when I took this photograph, I obviously visited during the day, but when I took the photograph, the exposure had an effect that looked like it was either nighttime or just like fully full sun. And I decided to turn this one into a nocturne. And I love the idea of the moon rising up over the mountains, and just this overlook is beautiful. So those are some of the pieces that I completed that were extra special to me during the project. I did happen to do a lot of process time-lapse videos. So if you go onto my Facebook page or my YouTube page, you can kind of see how the paintings came together. When I work, I essentially want to capture the essence of a place. And the Adirondacks, I've said it to, I've told Peg, I've told everybody who will listen that the Adirondacks are essential to my work. They're essential to my well-being. Whenever I go there, I have precious memories of my family. We go there often. When we first moved to the area in 2003, we would every weekend take a trip and just find an adventure, find something to discover. And I just have so many fond memories of the Adirondacks. So with that, I'm gonna just stop sharing for a moment. And we'll have a moment towards the end for questions. But for now, I wanted to essentially talk to the artists who are participating in this. And again, we'll go in order of alphabetical order, except I'm gonna choose Daisha first because I know she has another commitment coming up. So Daisha, I'm gonna ask you just a couple of questions to talk about your work that's in the show and how are you inspired by the Adirondacks? And maybe if you could also just talk about a little bit of your process. And you could unmute. I'm gonna mute my microphone and go ahead, Daisha.
Hi everyone. Thanks for being here. I didn't expect to go first, but I do have to leave soon. I want to echo what Takis just said about the Adirondacks not only being inspirational, but also a place of respite and joy and just for me particularly being born and raised here, just a part of my family's history and the connection that I feel to the landscape is really strong. And I actually didn't realize how strong it was until I moved away to the West Coast. And I was just really struck by how disoriented I felt being away from the land and the scenery that I grew up with. And also how important it was to me growing up in a low income situation. Going outdoors to the Adirondacks is free. And so it's something, that I could do all the time with my family. And it remains to be and was just the funnest and most inspirational and exciting thing that I enjoy doing. And the pieces that are included in the show are all photographed between my hometown in Saratoga up to Lake Placid at the gravesite. Well, not at the gravesite, but the trail was to the burial ground of John Brown, the abolitionist, because this particular body of work is about the legacy of slavery in America and how it relates to my personal family history and our connection to the landscape and how racism not only, affects our government institutions, but also our outdoor spaces. So these images, often people think that they're collages, but it's actually a single photographic image. And so I created a physical transparency of a portrait. And then I brought that transparency to a body of water, the rivers and the lakes, like I said, from Saratoga up to, I forgot the name of the river off the top of my head. That's in Lake Placid. I'm sure one of you can just shout it out. But I placed the image in the water. And so everything that you see is either floating above or below the image in the water. And all the places that I photographed were important to me, either because it's places that my family and I visited, or they had historic significance to us, specifically the Black community. And it's why I ended, I mean, it's not finished, but the last place I've gone was to close to the burial ground of John Brown. Did you ask me anything else?
Sorry, I had to get back to the unmute. Yeah, I think that's great. And I appreciate you sharing about your work and about the history and your family connection to the Adirondacks. And I can totally relate to what you mean by being free. You know, when we first moved to the area, we didn't have a lot of money to be, you know, going to the movies or going to do whatever on the weekends. So our fun and our adventure was heading up to the Adirondacks. And I felt so grateful to have access to places that were just unlike anything I'd ever seen in my entire life. So, and it was just there for me to enjoy and my family to make such incredible memories. So thank you, Desha, for sharing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so now I'm just gonna go alphabetically. So Matt, I think you're up next, and I will share my screen again so you guys can see some of Matt's work.
Hi.
So Matt, if you could just talk to us about your process, about what inspires you about the Adirondacks, that would be great. And maybe if you have a favorite location.
You know, my process is I kind of wander around and look for something that looks cool, and then I paint it. And I love the Adirondack. I mean, it's just it's beautiful everywhere. And to a large extent, I really like where natural meets man-made and how that interfaces and all that. And I kind of like that everywhere. But I think in the Adirondacks, it's really all the more kind of like it's where you kind of the place where you leave. And like this one in particular, this is a marina, Norwal Marina in Bolton, and my friends were putting their boat in and out, and actually I missed them, but there it was, and I found that kind of really cool to be kind of very, very commonplace with trucks and stuff like that, and then right there you're going out into the wild, so to speak. So I really like that. And the boats, I like the boats too.
And one thing I wanted to mention about Matt's work is that Matt works plein air. So that means he works out in the open from life. And what I love about Matt's work is that authenticity it has about it. You just feel these moments captured in time.
Thanks, yeah. That's pretty much it. You know, it's kind of like, what you see is what you get. You know, I go somewhere and I'm like a camera, kind of in that way, reporting, so to speak, a reportage, and it's kind of fun. It's really a lot of fun.
Do you have a favorite spot, Matt?
There's so many places. You know, I think I mean, we go up to the cabin, which is the ball cabin on Six Lake. We try to spend a lot of time there, and there's a painting actually. There's two paintings from that place, and one of them is those trees. Do you have that? I don't know if you have that.
Yeah, I do have that. I'll get that open.
And that's out in back. That one's out in the back of the cabin. There's nothing man-made in that one.
I'm trying to find it. Hang on.
So and very abstract. It gets very the trees and the light gets very abstract and.
That one.
Elaine wanted to say something. She had a little plug. Could she
Here it is.
say something? There it is. Yeah, that one.
I'll wait till the end.
Um,
Wait till the end.
and, I love that. I've done that like 20 times, that spot. And in the afternoon, the late afternoon, the light just bounces off those greens and creates this really fascinating sort of just beautiful thing. And yeah, so I like that a lot.
Yeah, beautiful. I love that you feel like you're sheltered by the shadows of the trees, and then that bright light is off into the distance.
Yeah.
Very nice. Awesome. Well,
Thanks.
thanks for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, Kate. I have to mention that Kate is my birthday buddy. And when we started Creative February, Kate was the first person that I called because we share the same birthday. So as you know, misery loves company. So when I had that idea, I texted Kate and I said, guess what we're doing for our birthday? And she was like, all right.
A lot of work.
She's always down for an adventure with me. So, and Kate joined me on one of our excursions during February to paint Mossy Cascade with Sophie from TNC and Emily from NPR North Country, and Susan Berman? Yep, from Adirondack Life joined us, and it was fantastic. So Kate, if you
And it wasn't super cold.
Oh no, not at all.
It was like 30 degrees. It was amazing.
So Kate, if you could just talk to us about your work and how you're inspired by the Adirondacks, and if you have a favorite spot as well.
Well, I love landscape painting, as many of you may or may not know. I don't work full-time as a painter, but every day on my drive to work, I pine that one day I will be surrounded by the beautiful countryside that we have here in upstate New York. And if I actually look out my window, I can see the southern Adirondacks, French Mountain to be exact, which is lovely. It's nice that it's right, it's right here. Literally 20 minutes and you could be there. It's amazing. It's so vast. It's just such a beautiful place. And that's the painting that we did at Mossy Cascade. And there was all paint, it was lightly snowing that day, and a lot of snow had mixed into my paint, which made it really hard for me to get a sharp edge. And it was frustrating me because if you see my work, I kind of like a sharp edge. And when it was all done, it had melted into Keese's car. And then it kind of reminded me of a watercolor, which was interesting because it's oil. And I just love how it turned out. I just decided not to touch it because it has such a feeling of it, sort of the softness of a light snowfall. You can still see so much when it's just lightly snowing, but there's a wonderful softness to everything. And even the sound that it has when it's snowing, I love that sound.
Yeah, that was a fun trip. And I love this piece, Kate, because it does really capture that moment. The light was really overcast, so there wasn't a lot of contrast, but you have defined these fallen trees over the stream so beautifully. And yeah, I love
the back there now.
Oh yeah, we should do that. Let's do that.
Although I imagine it's probably really mosquito-y.
Oh, we just bring some bucket spray. Awesome. Well, thank you, Kate. Thank you. Let's see, who's next? Tim. Tim is next. I think this is Tim's work. Yep, Tim.
Hey. Oh, my giant frog.
Yeah, just so we can get the scale of this, could you just let everyone know the size of it?
Oh, it is a watercolor, transparent watercolor. It's about 40 by 60, the image, something like that. It's rather large. And just going back briefly, I was born and raised in the Adirondacks, but like any young person, I really didn't appreciate it until my wife and I moved away for a number of years. And eventually, after 16 years of studying abroad and living in a variety of places, we decided to come back. And when I came back, I didn't have any preconceived notion of what I was going to paint or do even. So when I started to try to relate to the Adirondacks, I simply kind of went on a hike or walked in the woods, or walked along the stream and tried to just react to what I call my personal encounters. And when I saw something that struck me, then I simply did a reference photograph and painted it. Obviously, I have to work by reference photographs because these are very large watercolors. In 2007, I switched to large-scale watercolors from oil because I got so excited about the scale of them. They get to be very, very abstract when you work on this scale. This one that's up at the El Sable Rapids is like that. It may not look like it, but it was so much fun to paint. And I paint, I guess I could say, in very small paintings throughout the piece. And of course, I control it so they don't look like a bunch of small paintings, and generally work from top to bottom. And it's just, you have to enjoy the process, I think. And after all these years of approaching painting in a variety of ways and never really seriously painting my own Adirondacks until we moved back in '88, it was a pleasure to rediscover the place where I lived. And it was, it still is, I'm still discovering all sorts of things that I like to paint that I thought I wouldn't. Or I'll paint something once and I'll say, I'll never paint that again, and move on to something else. So in the show, I'm showing a variety of pieces, quite a variety of pieces actually, from the monochromatic. If you leave it on that one for just a sec,
Sure.
this is a removal process. I paint the whole surface blue-gray watercolor, solid. Then I do the drawing, and then I lift the color off, and with water, paper towels, and brushes, and then paint all the sticks on and so forth. So it's basically 3 or 4 values there. And you can see the remnants of the wash around the border. And I've done a few like this. And so that's a lot of fun to do as well. So I enjoy myself. I have a gallery in Saranac Lake, which I've had for over 20 years. So that's my studio. And so this is why I work from reference photographs. Occasionally I will paint plein air, mostly on vacation. So it's such a privilege to be able to go to my own studio gallery on Main Street and paint. So I'm a lucky guy.
Great. Thank you, Tim. I love this one too. And
Yeah.
This is just, I mean, just incredible
Yeah.
level of detail. And
Thank you. Just one quick comment. The reason why I was on my way to a waterfall and there was this big green frog. It is a green frog. And so I took a photograph of it. When I blew it up on my computer, I couldn't believe the landscape on the side of this frog.
Oh, yeah.
And without the aid of a computer, I would never have seen that previously. So that was pretty much the sole reason why I wanted to paint him. So yeah, with the aid of photography and computers, be able to get into this minute detail, it just opens up a whole new area of interest.
Excellent. Thank you. Beautiful, beautiful work, Tim. Thank you for sharing it with us. Okay, so next we have Holly. Let's get some of Holly's work up here. Hi, Holly.
Hi there. How are you?
So I've met Holly in person. I've been following Holly on social media for so many years. And this past February, I was in Montreal for my birthday, special milestone birthday. And Holly was gracious enough to have me and my family visit her in her studio. And we met, and I just felt like we were like long lost friends. It was so comfortable just to be there with you. And I have a piece of Holly's work in my house that I absolutely love.
Yeah, that was great. It was fun to have you there. So, yeah, and that's where I am. I would be diving into a lake in the Adirondacks right now, but I'm trapped in Montreal. So, as you all know, the border's closed, and so I'm here. And but the Adirondacks, I sort of found serendipitously by doing a show at Old Forge in 2013, and it just captured my heart. I've been returning ever since. So, yeah, I mean, there's so many places, and it's just endless. It just keeps opening up. There's so much to discover and explore, and whether it's on water or by climbing or hiking. That's actually this painting is the one I was working on when the pandemic kind of first broke out, and everything was very uncertain. Like nobody knew what was going on. So it felt really appropriate because it felt very tumultuous and almost overwhelming. And this is the spring water shooting through the flume, through those rocks. So it was a good piece to work on at that time. And 4 months later, I'm still not sure what's happening, but a lot of water's gone down the river.
Great, and let's see, there's another one here.
Yeah, and this one's from a hike. I think it's called Three Crows. Is that right? Up near Keene?
Yeah, well, the title of your piece is
I hope I got it right. Anyway, it's a beautiful spot where you just come into this this place of mostly birch. So it's very open. And you know, when the leaves are yellow in the forest and it feels like someone's turned on a light.
Yes, I love that.
It was really a pretty magical hike. So that one's from there. Yeah,
well, thank you again for sharing your vision of the Adirondacks with us. I love your work.
Thank you, Takis. And I did try to paint along with you in February. I mean, I didn't get to do it every day, but it was fun. That was really a fun challenge for sure.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I remember that. It was fun. So some days when I was like, oh, it's getting so late, and then you would post something, I'd be like, oh, got to get to work. So I appreciate that.
That's a great project.
Thank you. Okay, so Sandra, you're up next.
Okay. Well, I too am a plein air painter primarily. There's nothing I'd rather be doing than being outdoors painting. This is a plein air piece that was done on a warm day in a warm February a few years ago. And I guess my inspiration is wild places. I don't put in anything man-made if I can help it. And I would really prefer to just be out there in the most tangled, cluttered, dead trees fallen down, vines, forest, and be painting. This one, however, which is of OK Slip Falls, was not a plein air piece. It's pretty big. I think it's 36 inches high. But I had such a wonderful experience, and my paintings are also about my experiences. I was hiking in to paint the falls. I knew there was a view from a rock ledge up above looking down at the falls, and happened to meet a young woman who was working for the DEC, and she was hiking in to go put up some signage. And she said, "Do you want to go down to the base of the falls?" And I said, "Sure." So we hiked all the way down to the Hudson River and then hiked up the brook to get to the base of the falls. I carried my heavy backpack with all my paints and easel and everything with me. And then there wasn't time to paint. And it was just so amazingly beautiful. I took photos. And so this is a studio piece done afterwards from my photos.
Great. It's another one that I really love.
And this is from Big Crow. I think that's what you were thinking of, Holly. There's Big Crow and Little Crow and Keene. And this is a plein air piece done from Big Crow.
And Sandra, you work pretty large in plein air. I mean,
I do.
Yeah.
If you bring up the one on Lake Placid,
not sure if I have that one open. Hang on.
well, that's okay. It was a 30 by 40, and I didn't hike up with it. I did drive to Whiteface Mountain, but I did hike up the 300 steps carrying my canvas and set up on the summit to do this painting. I also didn't finish it, but I got a really good start on it and then finished it in my studio.
It's such an iconic view too.
It is.
Yeah. Very
And
nice.
I don't have a favorite place. There are too many. Classic view of the high peaks from the Lodge Road is pretty good. It's a go-to place if ever I don't have much time and want to go paint. But I live in Saranac Lake, and so I have my choice of places to go to. Great.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, and thank you for inviting me to take part. I was thrilled.
Absolutely. I was just thrilled that you could participate. Again, you're an artist that I've admired for many, many years, and your work is iconic Adirondacks, I think. So I was thrilled that you were able to participate. Thank you. So now, Edward Bear Miller, you're up. Let's see. Here's some of your pieces, Ed. Bear, if you could just, again, talk about.
You're doing such a great job of managing this. I'm very impressed.
Oh.
Let you continue to take command of the images. Shall I speak on the same vein?
Sure, absolutely. Anything you want to share about your inspiration and your process?
Actually, I'm glad you started with this one, in that I, in this case, worked from a photo from a magical trip I took into, actually to visit Nina Foster, who I think might still be on the call, at Harold Weston's camp on the Upper Ausable Lake. And that whole area in the High Peaks wilderness and around Four Corners has a lot of mystical qualities for me, and I get a lot of my inspiration as a painter and really as a human being from the examples of modernist painters like Harold Weston and indeed Rockwell Kent, and just the commitment they had to their craft and to their ideals as human beings continues, and their sense of adventure. Mine pales in comparison, but I have been fortunate enough to climb mountains and paint mountains all over the world. And I'll tell you, I tend to daydream about Keene Valley, even when I'm down there. I lived in the Andes for 5 years and climbed a lot of much more spectacular peaks than anything we have in New York State. But these hills, these cliffs, these mountainsides speak to me in a way that maybe goes back to my fantasy, or it may be based in reality, that I was conceived in Keene Valley, and my family going back generations has had the good fortune to have a place up here. Actually, I'm going in a couple of days. I live in Tarrytown, within sight of the Hudson River, and so that mystical quality again of somebody mentioned the Opalescent River and Feldspar Brook and Lake Tier of the Clouds, and just the idea that I'm participating in that just that that watery source up there, even when I'm down here, is huge. My process, I used to be much more of a dedicated plein air painter, and some of these pieces are plein air. This one is not of wall face from the top of Algonquin, but one or two of the pieces in the show was done on plein air. And I love that process, and frankly, they tend to be better than the ones I torture myself over in the studio and try to perfect and overwork. But I am always evolving, but I do find that getting back to Keene Valley and making paintings in that intimate setting every year helps ground me as a painter. I make other kinds of work when I'm in other places, but when I'm up there, this is the sort of work I do, and I am very much inspired by the tradition that exists up there, and I'm glad it's still intact, and we need to fight for that.
Absolutely. And I love your work too, Bear. It's just absolutely beautiful. I love the texture, this in the sky, your brush strokes. I just love it. It's like there's a weave in the sky with all the colors, and I admire your work as well. So thank you for sharing it with us.
Well, it's mutual. Thank you.
All right. So just a couple more. Thank you, everybody, for being so patient. So Tad is next. Tad, if you could, let me see, where are you? Here we go. Oh, nope, that's Takis. Here's Tad. Tad, if you could, go ahead.
I unmuted myself.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, so thank you, Takis, for having me in this, or inviting me for this show. It's an honor.
The pleasure's all ours. Thank you.
Yeah, so I think the reason I'm drawn to the Adirondacks, just upstate New York in general, is growing up a couple hours south of the Adirondacks, I think has really helped with my sense of wonder and sense of mystery I have for the Adirondacks. I would take weekend trips and week-long trips with friends up there, and we'd hike high peaks and things like that. And coming back, it was always, I don't know, they're just some of the greatest memories I have because of the, like you guys have said, the vastness and the landscape. There's just so much variety going on in that huge area of New York State. And another thing is I feel like it seems so out of place compared to the rest of the state. It seems like a fairy tale land almost. And I think that comes from growing up outside of it and having that appreciation, being able to go maybe once or twice a year, but really appreciating that time and making the most of it.
I agree with that in terms of the specialness and the sense of place that you get in the Adirondacks. I don't think there's any place like it that I've seen anyway. And when I first visited the Adirondacks, I had that sense of wonder and this sense of, am I in a different place? Like, did I step into an alternative universe? You know, it's so just unique in the variety of the landscape that you can find there. So thanks, Tad. I appreciate it. I love Tad's work, and Tad's also, he's multi-talented. The paint box that I took with me to do my study on Mossy Cascade was made by Tad. He's a prolific painter and just is cranking out paintings like, I'm jealous, I'm jealous. He's great.
I have one more thing to add if I can.
Of course.
I think my favorite spot in the Adirondacks to paint so far is anywhere along the Ausable River.
Mm-hmm.
There's just so many little amazing spots to be found there, and a lot of it is kind of hard to get to, which adds to the excitement. It's like kind of just drops right into it, and it's hard to set up to paint anywhere near it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I painted there the first time last year at the Saranac Plein Air Festival.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you. And I love the Ausable too. I've done a number of paintings of that area, and I know what you mean. Trying to wade through the brook and not slip on the rocks. So thank you. Thanks again, Tad.
Thank you.
Okay, so last but certainly not least, Denon. Is Denon here? Not sure if he had responded. Not sure if he's here, but if you're here, Denon, I can't hear you. No, I don't think he's on the call, but we'll just go through some of his work. He also, I believe he is local to the Adirondacks, and he paints in plein air as well, and does a lot of like palette knife. I think this painting, you can tell, just has a lot of palette knife work in it. Love this. And I think, let's see if I have any other ones of his to share. Yeah. This one I really like this one because it reminded me of our trip on our 10-mile cross-country ski trip. There were a lot of times when I looked behind me and this is exactly what I saw. So I thought he just captures that winter light and the bare winter trees so beautifully. So that covers everybody. We only have a few more minutes, but I don't have anywhere to go. So if you have a question, please feel free to, stop sharing my screen now. Please feel free to just unmute yourself and ask. Maybe if you could like raise your hand first so that we know who's gonna be speaking. We wanna hear from you, so. Any questions or comments?
Well, I'll jump in and just say how much Zizi and I enjoy listening to the artists talk about their work and you guiding us through it. Their energy and enthusiasm is wonderful. It's really too bad we're not sharing this work together in person at the church, but we will another time. And I think this has been a great way to do it under the circumstances. So thank you for rallying the troops and all the beautiful work. As Peg said, you know, this is what makes people really remember and react to what's so beautiful. So you guys, hats off. It's fantastic work.
Okay.
You want to go on the screen?
Hi, everybody. I'm Matt's wife, but I'm also I work with state parks, and there was a mention earlier of John Brown Farm, and so I thought I would invite you all tomorrow to an event that's taking place there from 4 to 6. They're doing a bit of an art installation. It's a memorial field to commemorate the lives lost to violence. And they always do a beautiful job there. It's always very inspiring and hopeful. And I thought, given the Adirondack audience, perhaps you might be interested in joining us. And thank you to Keese and Peg. This was a beautiful experience, so thank you.
Yeah, it was fantastic. Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, everybody. I appreciate you taking time on your Thursday evening to join us, to listen to us talk about what has inspired us about this beautiful, special place that is in many of our backyards. The importance of conservation, especially in light of recent events. It's so important to have the space where we can all go to recharge, to feel connected to nature. You know, we're not outside of it, we're a part of nature. And this landscape is just important. And I want to commend the staff at TNC for the work that they're doing to ensuring that places like the Adirondacks are accessible to everybody. Like I don't have to have a house on a lake to experience the beauty and peace that comes from visiting the Adirondacks. So thank you, Peg, and shout out to Sophie for being an awesome partner during Creative February. Sophie helped with all the research for all the places that we featured through my paintings. Many of them I already have on dates on my calendar to go visit, the ones that were new to me. So thank you, Sophie. And thank you to all the artists who shared their incredible work with us. I so appreciate you all. I admire all of you and your ability to just capture this area in your own unique way. So thank you. And just one more time, if anybody has any questions, we've got, what, like a minute?
I just want to give a shout out to Alejandra Owen, who put together the artsy site for us. And she's not on, she's doing the right thing. She's camping with her mom, I believe. Frank, at least that's what she told me. I don't know, but thanks for presenting. I see my son Jim is with us from Australia. Jim, thank you for joining. And everyone, thank you for coming, and please please visit the show, and I encourage others to do so. This is a big experiment, and I hope it works.
Yeah. It was terrific. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, I love this format. I think this was great. It was nice to see all your faces, and everybody looks like they're safe and healthy. So, so thanks again.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Great.
Bye. Thank you so much to Keith.
Thanks, everybody. Bear, see you soon.
Yes, Mal, we'll be up there day after tomorrow.
All right. Very good.
Hey,
Everyone have a great night.
Good to see you, buddy.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Nighty night.
Night.